at my home printer. The one that is especially important is the one about next week. And next week we are not going to be here because they're having summer camp here in this room at lunchtime on Tuesday. So we are going to be at the St. John Unitarian Church, which is off Reeser, which is off of Clifton, and it's by, don't choke, that's not good for us. You can park in the Fairview Clifton German Language School parking lot. It's right around that area. So it's right there, and that we're going to be they're competing for us at the legal aid office. So we're now got our second speaker instead of the first speaker. So this is a different one than we had last week. So Stephanie Mose is coming, and you should have that. And there's one for you, there's one over there on your desk for everybody to take one home. So make sure you take one of those with the red stuff on it, so you know about next week. Because we want people who are interested. We think should hear about legal aid, about the affordable housing. Okay, so that's for next week. Oh, and Katie's not here this week. She's got some kind of wonderful, one of her grandchildren is having something spectacular, you know, one of those big meetings, and she's gone. So she's not here with us. Okay. So make sure you sign up for your bag lunch. And we do have a substitute bag lady. You see, look at Dot. See Dot there in the back of the room? She has a piece of paper, so if you want to order your lunch for next week.
And I'm passing around the basket to pay for the space. And last week it was short, and that comes out of Katie's pocket. So let's please be.
Make sure you pay your $2. We're enough here. We should have it covered. Okay, so I promised Deborah Schreck that I would make two announcements for her. One is for this coming Sunday, the 21st, at the Chameleon. If you know where that is, and then if you don't, find out where it is. Right, and the announcement is in the newsletter. So that's going to be Naomi Liebson on the impact of big money on foreign relations. Naomi Liebson is a millennial who grew up in Cincinnati and graduated from Indian Hill High School. In her mid-20s, she moved to Montreal, Quebec, where she lived for 5 years. In Montreal, she worked in Canada for this other organization. And then she moved to England, where she lived in Newcastle on Tyne for 3 years. She returned to the United States, where she worked for the state of Washington for another 3 years before returning to Cincinnati last year. She's dealing with the elite, there you go, the elite, high-end clientele, working at a private airport in the state of Washington, and is working for Porsche, the Porsche dealer. She brings a unique perspective to the impact of corporate money in politics and how it can warp our political system. So that's going to be this coming Sunday at the Chameleon. And on that following Thursday, 7/25, the Greater Cincinnati is going to move to amend its teaming up with the American Promise to talk about perspective on big money in politics with the College Hill Dems at the Red Rose Cafe in College Hill. So they're hooking. I love it. You know, we're hooking up with each other. That's really important. How can I help?
You got to pull down the curtain because you're dark when you for the video.
My brother wants me in pictures. I love it. So I think one of the things that we do that's really important in Cincinnati is hooking up with other organizations and knowing what's going on here in the city. So so we're getting together with the American Promise people. Okay, now also on your table, I'm opening up this in a minute, but first let me get through my announcements. The CPS levy thing. The CPS levy is check it out and see what you're paying for with your tax dollars and make sure that it happens, because as somebody who taught in Cincinnati, Cincinnati public schools, I'm telling you the money is well spent. I think so. And are you registered? And that's just about it. So everybody should see that on your page, on your table. There's at least one on the table. And there's probably an extra over there. I have another paper there. It is people who are being recommended on the November election. I always want to know who's on the election. You know, it's really very early yet because they haven't finished signing everybody up. But I have this sheet of paper here that says it comes from Barbara Myers, who's the American Political Women, and she's they have made their recommendations. Now, because of the nature of our organization, we do not endorse because we can't. I mean, we don't have a president, we don't have offices, we don't have an organization, but we are, I have to tell you, we're interested in what's going on. We are. And this is one way to say interested is to know who to vote for. And they're all Democrats. So take that for what it is. And there's another one up here that has a picture of the executive director of the League of Women Voters. And she's asking you to make 6 phone calls. And I'm going to make a bet here that you can get this done in less than 7 minutes. I think you can call these 6 phone numbers in less than 7 minutes and have them make these 4 recommendations about the budget here in Ohio. Because one of the things we should be looking for in Ohio is how our money is spent. And this is by the League of Women Voters, and quite frankly, as a devout member of the League of Women Voters, I think this is a really good thing to do. So I want to know if there's anybody who's able to do this in less than 7 minutes. I will come back with and I'll ask you next week, did you make your 6 phone calls? It doesn't take very long, it really doesn't. And just make these phone calls and get that done. Okay. Okay, and now we're ready for other announcements. Other announcements. There we go.
I know I raised my hand first. You can go first then. Well, I know I took a lot of heat yesterday for trying to open the blinds here, but as an environmentalist, for me to see every single light in the room on when it's daylight, and we have 4 light windows, just makes no sense to me. And the solution to having her get brighter is to put some more light on her. But anyway, that's just my personal ballywick, and it wasn't very popular last time, so I won't push it. How many people here know about Richard Azimus's work group for a bold new democracy? Okay, so that's tonight. Speaking of the Chameleon, that's at the Chameleon, 6:30 to 7. Or so, drinks and conversation, and then 7 o'clock the speaker begins, and this time it's David Akejian. Wrote the Little Book of Revolutions. He's a contributing editor to the Daily Cost, and so if you know about it, and if you're interested in the bold new democracy, and you want to work on that with like-minded people, once again, the Chameleon is what is that? 4114, something like that. Hang on. 4114 Hamilton Avenue in Northside. And here's Marlena.
Here comes Marlena.
Hello again, Marlena Brookfield, running for Cincinnati Public School Board. Just a couple quick announcements. One is that there's a lot of things you could do this evening, and if you're not going to Richard's group, another suggestion I have is tonight is the 2nd Gen Z Town Hall hosted by Tamaya Denard. It will be at the Evanston Rec Center from 6 to 7:30, and these are being organized to find out from young people, 25 and under, their thoughts, their ideas about solutions for gun violence. And I went to the one last week. It was really powerful because these young people, we don't give them enough credit for their minds. And they had a lot of good things to say. They had a lot of great ideas, and Tamaya wants to get these groups of young people together, and she's offering a stipend for an actual working solution. So these kids will get to use their brain power and get paid for it. The other announcement I have is that we just scheduled a debate watch party for the 30th. It will be at Veracruz in Price Hill, and because the space is limited, it's ticketed. Tickets are $25. They are first come, first serve, and we're working on putting the links up. So I would act fast on that, and that's all I've got for today.
Marlena, what does the $25 include? Just a seat? Or?
It's the $25 is a fundraiser.
Oh, okay.
Peter has something to say about that.
No, I was just griping because I went to Brian Gary's debate watch. I ran out after 5 minutes because you can't hear a damn thing with all these drunken people rolling around. It's nice to be supportive, and you should always donate what you can donate, but if you actually want to follow the debate, I can't honestly say it's a great idea. But if you want to do a card, Marlena, you want to do a card for this?
Okay, we'll get you a card. Anybody else with an announcement, make sure you get a card to Peter. Peter is really important these days, especially during the summer, and he will remind you that next week we're going to be at a different location, which is St. John's Universal Church. Okay, and make sure you take, when you see the pile of papers that has enough for everybody at your table, please take one of them home. So I want to make sure that you have copies of those phone numbers. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Okay, it looks like we're good. Okay, and I came in time. That's good. So today we have Susan Noonan, who's been here before, and she says she knows all about you, and she, but she didn't get a button before, but this time she got a button. She got a button. And Miracle of Miracles, I spelled her name right, so there you go. So here we are with Susan Noonan. She's going to introduce herself and tell us about what she wants, and you're going to give me your thing to hand out.
Nobody knows what it is. You get some handouts. Okay, so I feel like I've really arrived. I have a button that says Susan. Thank you all. So I know a few people in the room, and I am glad to be here again. I was here, I don't know, a couple of months ago talking about the FBI Citizens Academy. Some of you might remember that. So this is something that is totally different from that. How many of you have heard of CEDAW? Jane, of course. Yeah, because she's from Women's City Club. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about CEDAW today. It started off standing for Conference to Eliminate Discrimination Against Women and Girls. Back in 1979, the UN ratified a treaty that would eliminate discrimination against women and girls. And they expected that most countries would also ratify that. 179 countries out of 190 ratified this treaty. The United States was the only industrialized country that did not ratify this treaty. It's basically human rights for women and girls. So why do you think the United States didn't ratify that treaty? You got it, yeah. You know what the United States does? The United States doesn't like to ratify treaties. They just don't. So what happened after that? We were among the few countries that didn't ratify, the Congo, Somalia, a few countries like that. So fast forward a few years, San Francisco and LA thought, you know what, somebody's got to do this. And of course, they're always the most progressive cities. So they did ratify the treaty. That wasn't enough. So moved forward a few more years, and in 2000 and, I think it was 2014, the UN held a Status of Women Commission meeting, and they decided we've got to do something about this. Let's change it to cities to eliminate discrimination against women, and try to get 98 more cities to pass an ordinance in the next year. Well, obviously that didn't happen, but what did happen is that a lot of cities got very interested in this. And in 2015, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, including our own mayor, voted that they would pass a resolution asking all of the major cities in the United States to ratify, well, not to ratify, but to pass an ordinance in their own city to eliminate discrimination against women and girls. So what happened? Cincinnati, by the way, is one of only 8 cities in the whole United States that has an ordinance, a CEDAW ordinance. So we are really ahead of a lot of cities, which is often hard to believe because they say we're always behind cities, especially with something like this. So in 2013, a professor from UC named Dr. Jan Fritz assigned to her class, her PhD class, a project, a civic project. She was teaching civic engagement. So they decided they wanted to try to get our city to pass a CEDAW resolution. Well, as you all know, a resolution has no teeth, but that's okay. That's the first step, which is what our city usually does. So her class went, they researched the whole thing, they looked at other cities that had done it, they went to all of our council people, and they found one, Councilman Seelbach, who said, I'll back this, this is a good thing. I mean, how can you not want to end discrimination against women and girls? And we're talking about economic, health, safety, all kinds of discrimination. So Jan Fritz put together a coalition. She asked me because I was president of the Women's City Club at the time. We got the Legal Women Voters, Amnesty International, Tri-State Freethinkers, Zonta International, the Chamber came on board. There were a bunch of groups that met trying to put together a resolution that was based on CEDAW. What we found out is that a lot of cities, for some reason, they were a little bit afraid of having CEDAW in the resolution or the ordinance because, again, it was a treaty, and the United States doesn't like ratifying treaties. But we pushed forward, and in 2015, thanks to Councilman Seelbach, the city passed a CEDAW resolution. And in that resolution, which I should have brought copies of, but I didn't get around to it, it basically states a lot of freedom for women, making sure women are not discriminated against at the workplace, at home, anywhere, that they are safe, that they get promotions, same level that men do. Anyway, it basically ended what we all know is discrimination against women and girls, certainly economically. So that was a great thing, but it has no teeth. A resolution really doesn't do anything. So at that point, Dr. Fritz moved to Florida, and she asked if I would take it over. So I brought on Connie Rush, who was a longtime city employee. So Connie and I continued working on this. We talked to council people. We found David Mann and David Mann's chief of staff, Ioana Paraskopoulos, who said, I just came here from DC. I know exactly what this is about, because most people have never heard of it. It's a big deal, and nobody in our city knows about it. So we worked very hard for the next 2 years. We drafted an ordinance, because until you have an ordinance, it's worth nothing. We also raised about $15,000 from Women's City Club, Legal Women Voters, Zonta, Tri-State Freethinkers, and the University of Cincinnati, who we had brought on board because we knew we wanted them to be part of this. At least 5 or 6 of their departments contributed $1,000. So when we went to City Council with our draft of an ordinance, we started with the law department. We had about $15,000, and we wanted them to put some money in so they would feel some responsibility for this. So the first step was to go through law committee, and they approved it just as we had written it. It was based very much on the resolution. And you can all see this online if you go to the city's website. So The hardest part was having the word CEDAW anywhere in the ordinance. Even David Mann pushed back on that, and we said, we have to have it there because we want to be counted as one of the cities that has passed an ordinance. Again, we're one of only 8 cities now. At the time, it was only 6 cities. So we lobbied council, and we went before Tamaya's committee, and they all agreed, okay, this is a good thing, we want to do this, let's go before council, have a vote. So on May 17th, 2017, it was a unanimous vote to pass 2 CEDAW ordinances. The first one said that the city would put $8,000 into the fund. And the fund, by the way, was for a gender analysis of all city employees, departments, commissions, and boards. Because the thing that CEDAW asked you to do, 3 things: a gender analysis, an oversight body, and some funding. So we had done all those 3 things, well, at least the 2 things. So the city agreed to put up $8,000, which brought us up to 21, which isn't a lot for a complete gender analysis. However, UC said, we will do it. So University of Cincinnati's Political Science Department, Department of Women and Gender Studies, the Provost, the President's Office, they all put in $1,000, which was awesome. And Political Science and Women's Gender Studies are the ones that are doing the gender analysis. So there's already been a preliminary report, and the mayor, before the preliminary report, let me step back for a minute. After we get the ordinances passed, the second ordinance said that the mayor needed to establish a task force, a women's equality task force that would oversee the gender analysis, and when that was done, that we would make recommendations to council on budget priorities and anything else that we found that was being discriminatory towards women. So in December, it took about 6 months for the mayor to get around to it, and in December he called 14 of us to his office, and we had made some recommendations of people, and this was a diverse group of women of all ages and women of all colors, all women. And he told us we were all being invited to be part of this gender equality task force. So that exists today. I'm a co-chair along with Megan Cummings from the Women's Fund, and we meet on a monthly basis. We have given 1 report to the mayor. At this point, there's the preliminary results are in from City of Cincinnati, from the UC's report. We have presented that at a Women's City Club meeting. We presented it to Maya's committee. It has received no publicity, as you all know, since most of you have never heard of CEDAW. So what we're hoping is when the final report comes out, it was a 2-year study. It'll probably be late fall, early winter. And when that final report comes out, we hope that a lot of this will become public. Basically, because of Cincinnati, City of Cincinnati has unions, the pay scale was not that far off. I mean, there really was, the problem that we found was not so much in the amount of pay as in the fact that women are predominantly in the low-paying jobs to start with, and so they don't get up there as fast. So several things have happened that haven't been a result of our task force, but that our task force supported. And one, of course, was Councilwoman Tamaya Denard's legislation that says nobody can ask salary history. So that really helps women and minorities because women so often are making less to begin with, and if they have to say what they made in their last job, they may not be paid as much in the next job. The other thing, a couple of other things. Greg Landsman with his eviction fund to help people that are being evicted, pay their rent for a couple of months, whatever you have to do. That and David Mann's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as well as his excise tax on Airbnb, which is going to put money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. These are all the kinds of things that the task force is advocating for. And our city really has done some really good things. I mean, they really have. Some of those things are, they should have happened probably a long time ago, but City of Cincinnati is not as far behind as many of us think. So CEDAW is something that at some point people will know about. At this point they don't, but it was a really good thing that happened. I mean, we're, as they say, far ahead of many other cities. There are now about 25 cities that have resolutions, but only 8 that actually have ordinances, which mean that we have some teeth. And the city will have to listen to these recommendations that we make. And if we find problems, in fact, they have already started with the fire department. What UC did is they did a complete survey of all city departments, boards, and commissions, and that's another thing. PG also has passed that legislation that says boards and commissions, before somebody gets appointed, they have to state in writing the makeup of that board, men, women, race, age, so that we can see if women and minorities are being appropriately appointed to boards, which to this point they have not been. What they found is that most boards are made up of suburban, rich people. So, let's see, what else do I want to say? So we've taken some big steps forward with this whole ordinance. We will probably, at the end of, as I say, early winter, we hope be publicizing this final report so you can all see. But, so UC did this complete survey of all the departments, and what they found was the pay among people that had same education, same experience, was pretty equal. But again, women are in the lower paying jobs in most departments. So I've been fighting the cold. So, questions? Yeah.
Hi. I'm sorry, I think you might have said it, but this survey, was it just government jobs or private industry too?
Well, it's our gender analysis, excuse me. Our gender analysis is only of City of Cincinnati employees, boards, and commissions. So we hope that at the end of the 2-year period of this task force, our recommendations are going to be that this gets expanded into the whole city. And some of the legislation that's passed, for instance, Councilwoman Denard's legislation, that's not just City of Cincinnati employees, that's for all employees in the city. So that's our goal, is to continue with this task force and enlarge it to other city employers, not just City of Cincinnati employers. Go ahead, yeah.
Do you know what the other cities are that have passed actual ordinances, or do you not have? It's okay.
I do. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Berkeley, Honolulu, Miami-Dade County, and Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh passed theirs right after we passed ours. However, Pittsburgh does not have a gender analysis started. We were all set to jump right into that gender analysis when the ordinance is passed. We already had UC on board, and we already had the money to do it. And they probably used up the money, but they're doing it anyway, so they were all pretty progressive cities, except for Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
I have a question.
I'm surprised Seattle's not on there.
Me too. Well, they're working on it, but they haven't been able to get it passed. A lot of cities are working on it.
Have you considered branching out to St. Bernard, Norwood, Lincoln Heights, some of the other sort of smaller cities within the county?
Absolutely. I think once we get through with this gender analysis, I'll have a better idea of how to move forward into some of these others. But that would definitely be something that we would all love to do. And as I said, so besides the major survey of all of the city departments, we did what they call a deep dive into 5 departments. Police and fire were 2 of those. Health department, economic development, and planning. And what we found in the fire department is that there are very, very few women, and the women feel very unheard, and so because of the survey that was done, and because of the new fire chief, they have already taken some major steps to include women, to start peer counseling, to make their employee, whistleblower thing much easier, and so forth. So it's already having an effect on a couple of departments. We found that the health department is made up of many, many more women than men. It's female biased. However, most of the women, except for the top, are in the lower jobs.
Yeah, I actually have a comment about Pittsburgh being very conservative. I lived there for 18 years. I left there in '94. When I lived there, the voter registration was 10 Democrats for every one Republican. So it's really not that conservative of a city. I'm sure it's changed some in 25 years, but I don't think it's changed that much.
In Pittsburgh? Did you say?
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big, big union town.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
you're right. Yeah. But they get the ordinance passed, but they can't get anything else going on yet, so they're struggling a little.
I have a question about something you said about that it's not allowed to, you're not allowed to ask pay, what your pay is.
In the city is, in Cincinnati.
Okay, that's the employer interviewing somebody?
Right, the employer cannot ask for your past salary history.
Okay, because I think on one-to-one, if you're working with another person, and if you ask them what pay they're making, you might find out if you're a female, that a lot of places you may be making less for the same thing.
Right, and I mean, and that's great legislation, and tonight I got that passed, because that's really going to help women and minorities more than anybody.
I was curious about the research done by the University of Cincinnati. What funded that?
What funded it was a bunch of us giving some money, the Women's City Club, Zonta, Tri-State Freethinkers. I think I already mentioned this. I used to know Jim Helton fairly well because Jim got involved with Jan and Fritz in the very beginning when they started working on CEDAW. I got involved afterwards, so I knew Jim, but Jim is no longer the head of the Tri-State Freethinkers. I really have never been a part of that group, and all I know is that they're atheists. I don't know really much else about what they do. I do know one thing Jim told me that they have done at the Creation Museum down in Kentucky. They managed to get, you know how you can adopt a highway? They adopted the highway in front of the Creation Museum so they can pick it and put up signs, yeah.
And it was vandalized. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to mention, they're not only atheists, there's also secular humanists and tri-state freethinkers. There's a different group called Tri-State Atheists that they sort of emerged from. There's a whole bunch of groups like that, the Free Inquiry Group, CORE, the Council of Reason, which also broke off from Tri-State Freethinkers. But we were all down there protesting the Ark Encounter, it's called. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the study again. It says it's a 2-year mixed method study which involves quantitative and qualitative elements. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the study works, the mixed method?
Well, the quantitative is what they've been doing so far with the surveys. Human Resources has cooperated wholly with UC, so Human Resources has been able to provide them with all kinds of information on pay, promotion, and so forth. The quantitative part is the part that's been done. And I can, if you all email each other, I can give you a link to get on and see that whole preliminary report. I have one copy of it with me. It was big, so I can print a whole lot of copies. What they're working on now, the qualitative, they're actually looking at networks, how other networks within departments, for instance, mentoring networks, or who do you go to when you need help. So they're looking at a lot of subjective things now. It's a pretty innovative study. we compared it with some of the other cities that have done gender analyses, and there are actually quite a few cities who have done gender analyses, even if they don't have a CEDAW ordinance. They've done these studies, and this is pretty unique the way UC's doing it. And I'm not a researcher, so I'm not the one to explain it in detail, but I'll be glad to show you this copy, and I'll send you some links so you can see their proposal and the study that's come out already. They're doing a really good job for the amount of money, that's all I can say. And they're using a lot of PhD students, so.
Anybody?
So now you all know what CEDAW stands for. It can be conference, or it can be convention, or it can be cities to eliminate discrimination against women.
There we go, Susan Noonan. Woo! Wonderful, thank you so much. I didn't know what CEDAW was, and I'm just glad that they're looking at it.
I should say one more thing. There is you all know about the county effort. I think Dot Christensen thought that's what I was going to talk about, but the County Commission on Women and Girls still exists, and they, after their first group finished, they came up with 3 resolutions, and one of them had to do with boards and commissions, and one had to do with pay. But anyway, we work with Denise Treehouse, and we're trying to work together, keep each other informed. So they now have their second group of people that are working on, I don't know what they'll work on this time, but that's continuing too, so.
I have to tell you, I am continually amazed by how many groups there are in Cincinnati, and how I didn't know so many of them existed. So I have to tell you, I'm really grateful for this group just for telling me about what's going on in the city. I went for a couple of years to the group just like this in Tucson, and I knew so much more about Tucson than I did about Cincinnati. And I told people here about having a Tuesday group that was informational about the community, and they said, we need to have that here. And I got no interest until the election. And immediately after the election, we have now had over, what is it, 50 speakers per year, so we have had 125 speakers here. And I'm learning a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I'm learning a lot about what's happening here in Cincinnati. And I have to tell you, I'm really proud of what we're doing. Thank you.
It's amazing you don't have to say which election, it's just the election.
Thank you. Okay, any other things for the group?
I missed the thing about the red rose and the chameleon tonight. Could someone repeat that? And if you had a sack lunch and you don't want your mayo or whatever, put it on the table over there and we'll recycle.
There's a bag there that we're returning to the sister. So there are 2 announcements were about the chameleon. And no, one of them was with the chameleon. The first one is at the chameleon on Sunday at 3. The meeting runs from 3:30 to 4:30. They come at 3 and they socialize. And that's going to be about big money. They're really focused on big money. And upcoming guests is going to be at the Red Rose on the 25th, the Red Rose Cafe, and that's going to be at 7 to 8:30.
But since you asked about tonight at the Chameleon, that's Richard Azimus's group, the work group for a bold new democracy, at 6:30 at the Chameleon, and their guest tonight to work with them is David Akajian, who wrote the Little Book of Revolution and is a contributing editor to the Daily Cause.
And somebody passed a note to me saying that there were some people who came in late and didn't know about the $2 fee that we have.
I got them.
We got them. Okay, our Katie substitute went around and turned everybody's nose. Thank you, Dot, for getting our $2.
That's Susan.
Susan.
Don and I look alike.
No, I'm sorry about that. See, if you wore your name.
I know.
Set an example, Susan.
Set an example. Okay, any other announcements? Any other announcements? Well, today, we don't have to clean up right away. You can stay and socialize for a little while. We do have to be out of here by 1:30, but we don't have to take away the tables and the chairs today. So we are in very good shape. So I have put out, I'm ashamed to say, some chocolate in the back of the room. Please, don't make me take all of it home. I can bring it back. I mean, it'll keep. But especially in this weather, it's hard to keep, yes.
Katie had put on the agenda about talking about continuing to get lunch, and if we have time, is there time today to talk about whether to continue or just bring your own or whatever?
So here we are. Okay, so we're talking about lunch. How many people want to continue having a $10 get your bag lunch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Somewhere between 10 and 15. Yeah?
How many does Sister Judy need to make it worthwhile? Do you know?
I have
$50.
She has done 3 or 4 lunches for us at Cincinnati. You know what, she'll do whatever number you need and be fine with it.
Okay.
So, that's the number. I know I had somebody bring a box back to me and he ran out to go buy his lunch. So, there are other ways to get around the lunch. Just bring your own. And some people like just paying $2 and not having to pay the $12 that we had to pay over at the Blue Ribbon. Any other announcements?
Yeah, does anybody have any other suggestions on how to do lunch?
Other suggestions on how to do lunch? Yes.
Right behind you.
Well, there are sandwiches. I mean, it's also possible we think about doing a pizza or we think about doing soup. Katie knows someone who does soup and not do the same thing every day, every week, but kind of schedule through, mix it up. Are some possibilities.
I'll give it to Bill. Oh, I'm sorry.
Personally, for me, I just think it's really important that we not be obligated to buy a lunch, and that is not a money issue. For me, it's a food issue for me, because there are certain foods I cannot have, and that was a major problem for me at Blue Ribbon, and that was why I didn't want to pay for it there. So I personally would prefer to eat before I come or to bring my own food, so I really want us to keep that option open, that you can bring your own food if you want.
That's a good thing to know.
I agree with that. Do people know about La Soup? Do you know who they are? They might be, I've been to several things where they provided soup, and they're a wonderful organization. In fact, we should have somebody from La Soup come and tell us what they do. They just got a $1.4 million grant to do amazing stuff. So
Yeah. We are getting into election season, I have to tell you. We're getting demands in terms of, we have speakers through the end of August, but September, October are really prime time for meeting the people that we want to vote for in November. So that is coming up, yes.
Wait a minute.
So I support 2 options, bring your own or order in advance, but I would also encourage us to keep it simple or get a lot of volunteers that are going to help coordinate when we do pizza, when we do soup, when we do sandwiches. I mean, to have one person trying to coordinate that, I think can be a bit much. So,
Do we have a pizza person? Want a volunteer pizza person? No.
My hand up at the wrong time.
Sister Judy? They make great pizza. Or there you go.
Okay, in my opinion, I'm also in the same position she's in. I literally have no stomach, so therefore I cannot eat everything. And that rice was making me heave as soon as so that was not working for me. So anyway, so if, we need to keep the option open to not be tied into actually, I can bring chili with me and I can eat chili 24 hours a day and have no problem. But the other thing is if we get too complex with who is organizing, and then we've got 4 or 5 different rotations, I think we're going to get sort of crazy. I would prefer to stick with, maybe we can find somebody, or maybe the sister can offer different things. This week it's pizza, or next week but we always buy from Sister Judy.
And we know it's going to a good, they'll work it out, so that we can do that. So, Susan, you're taking all of this down, right?
Why do we even have to have lunch? It's only an hour. If you go out to breakfast beforehand, or you go out to eat for lunch or go home afterwards, I don't see the need to eat lunch during the meeting.
Well, good.
So
There's not a problem for you. So it's just a $2 option for you, just kind of
yeah, that's
paying
fine.
for the room.
Right.
We're good on that then.
I mean, it's only an hour. It's not like a 4-hour meeting. We need to have food.
I'm sorry to switch to a different topic, but as someone...
Well, wait, Peter, let's finish this topic. And my suggestion, Katie does a lot. I mean, she's the one who organizes all the speakers. I think my recommendation is we think about having a small committee to talk this out and work on La Soup and some other, because I think there are some organizations, but I'd like to, and some people who don't want to eat or have different options. So I'd like at least 3 volunteers that I can give to Katie to say that we have a little subcommittee. Elizabeth 1. Carol 2, Dave 3. Let me write it down.
What?
Okay. And Peter, you're on.
Yes. Yeah, sorry to bring this up, but...
I still have a comment on this topic. I think there's many opinions about what we ought to do about this lunch, as there are people in this room. And this arrangement works fine for me, it works fine for anybody else. You have a choice to get something sent, ordered in for you. You can choose not to eat, you can bring whatever you want. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It sounds like our committee has some pretty solid things to go back on.
Okay, I'm sorry to bring this up, but as editor of the newsletter, I'm personally very uncomfortable with being asked to list somebody else's endorsement of candidates. I think as a group, and I hope that there's agreement that if we invite someone to speak, implicitly we are interested in that person, but I don't think I just was given a list of from Barbara Myers, that this is what the members of someone have endorsed in a list of candidates. I feel very uncomfortable including this in the newsletter, but I'd like to get some feedback.
You don't have to. I have it out there, and I have some copies because I think people ought to know that there are names out there, and I want to know what names are available because I want to know who to ask. You know, we need to know who to ask to come in for 2 hours. Yeah.
It's very hard, I think, for a reader of the news.
Yeah, but
this is a list of endorsements. I think it's very hard for, there are 380 people now who get the newsletter. It's very hard for them to make a distinction between what we are endorsing and what a group that we are sympathetic towards has decided to endorse. I'm just uncomfortable with that.
don't include it in the newsletter. If you're not comfortable, Peter, don't do it.
I don't like to,
Would you be comfortable including a link to the Cincinnati Women's Political Caucus and to the Democratic Party website and the Republican Party website?
How to do a link. Technological.
I'll help.
Or provide their website, their web address. Because we're an informational group, we could provide that information. That there are groups who have made endorsements, and we can provide information that can get our people to those endorsements if they're interested.
Ellen says she'll help you.
Ellen, when you do that, invite me over because I want to find out about it too.
It couldn't be simpler. You can certainly, I'm going to tell Peter how to do it over the telephone. I can tell you also.
I'll give you my cards.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Talking about lunches, there's the sign-up sheet for next week. Please sign up before you go. Back table.
Okay. And with that, we continue visiting. Have a nice time. We have the room until 1:30. We don't have to take the chairs away. Everything's fine. We'll pack up and we're going to go. Thank you for coming today. You were a great, great audience. Thank you.
A few other groups. The Women's Fund did not put any money up front. However, they're going to pay for the design of the report when it comes out. And so we were short money, so the University of Cincinnati, as I say, 5 different departments, political science, provost office, women's gender studies, the president's office, and the Taft Research, they all gave us some money.
Well, one of the reasons I asked that, if you think about expanding this research to surrounding areas, trying to come up with funding to do that in all those separate areas would be a monumental task.
You're absolutely right, which is why it hasn't been done yet.
The Tri-State Free Thinkers, what a wonderful group. They were just protesting at the genocide at Incest Park. Would you care to expound on what they're doing?
Actually,